Well, hi everyone. Today I'm going to start the video for the first 5 minutes, only 5 minutes, talking about how we can turn New Zealand around. Please don't switch off, whatever you do. That would be the worst thing you could do. Stay with me, please. After the first 5 minutes, I get into what we really want to talk about today, which is the disaster unfolding with the Wanganui Local Council. So here we go. Thanks for staying with me. Well, here's a little video to explain how we're going to try and turn New Zealand around using these videos and how we're all a team. That's you guys watching these videos and us and everybody else. So here's something called the bell-shaped curve. Now this represents the normal, it's called the normal distribution of the population in a country. We have 3.6 million voters in this country. Yep, that's about 3.6 million. Right down the right-hand side, there's 5% of the population. Now, who are they? Well, they are the unconvertible people of this country. And that is, you know, people like the Maori party. They don't want democracy. They're very entrenched in their ideas. They don't want everyone equal under the law. They don't want one government for all. They want a two-tiered society with special rights for Maori. They want a dual government model for New Zealand. They want to call the country Aotearoa. They want Maori to be the main language. They want the beaches and the water to belong to Maori. They want Maori wards and Maori seats and so on. Now that group is the unconvertible group in this country, and they're only a very small number of them, but let's say they're 5%. We don't know actually how many there are, but let's say they're 5%. Now down the extreme left-hand side, there's another 5%. Well, who are they? And this group here is what we call the converted group. These are people who are people like Stopco Governance. They are Hobson's Pledge. They are people like Democracy Action. They're people like New Zealand Centre for Political Research. That's our group. Well, what do they want? Well, one of the great things we want is to get back to the original intent and meaning of the Treaty of Waitangi, which means to honour it, to go back to what was actually written, to what was actually spoken, to what was actually said, and to what was actually agreed upon. So that's a big thing for this group. They too are entrenched in their ideas. They want democracy. They want everybody equal under the law. They want one government for all. They don't want a two-tier society with Maori having special rights. They don't want a dual government model in this country. They want to call the country New Zealand. They want English to be the main language. They want the beaches and the water to belong to everyone. They don't want Maori wards and seats and Maori seats and so on. That's the other 5%. Now, who are the rest of the people here? Well, we have a group in here, and I'll just use my mouse to show us who these people are. This is this group over here, and that's 15% of the population. That group is on the way to being converted, and so they're probably watching a few videos, and you know they're being awakened, in other words. And then there's another 15% over this side, on the right-hand side, and who are they? Well, they're people on the way to being unconvertible. They're heading towards the Maori party end. And who are they? Well, they're being radicalized. But the good thing about this group is that they are still open to change. We can still get to this group and rescue them, if you like. Now, the big group that's of massive interest to all of us is the 60% in the middle. Who are they? Well, they are oblivious to political realities here. They don't realize that Maori are taking over the country. They don't realize what's going on. They're apathetic, and they are completely unawakened. Now, when you add the percentages up there, 2 15s are 30%, and plus the 60, that's 90, and plus the 5% who are already converted, then we really want to grow that group of 5% on the left-hand side. We want 95% of this population in our country, of these 3.6 million people, to be completely converted, to be on our side. So when you get the videos out on social media, on X, on Instagram, on TikTok, and you pass our videos on to people, friends and family and everybody you know, then what you are doing is you are helping us increase our percentage of the converted people in this country. We'll never convert the unconvertible, that's the Maori party, but we can get to the other 95%. So that is what you are doing when you pass on our videos and when you encourage other people to subscribe to our channel. All right, so I hope that helps. Hope that helps us understand what we're really trying to do here. You see, to turn New Zealand around is just a matter of reaching more Kiwis with the videos on this channel. That's what it's about. The 60% apathetic Kiwis must be awakened. The large middle group on the bell-shaped curve that I've just shown you, the more subscribers we have, the more YouTube posts our videos to more Kiwis for free. This is just how it works. It's amazing what they do for you. So all you've got to do is just click on the subscribe button on the right of your screen down the bottom right hand side, and you'll be subscribed. It's as easy as that. By doing this, you'll be telling YouTube to post our videos out to more unconverted Kiwis. It's that simple. Then watch our market share grow and watch the country turn around. Thanks for helping, you guys. You're part of the team. That's all you got to do. Well, good evening, you beautiful New Zealanders. Well, in this video, I'm going to be talking about why Wanganui has become a big problem for all Kiwis. It's catastrophic what is happening there. And I've deliberately missed out the H in Wanganui. What's in the box today? In this video, number one, I'm going to talk about what's happening in Wanganui with their Maori wards. Number two, what's happening there ought to be of great concern to all Kiwis. It's catastrophic. Number three, I also reveal how Luxon is talking out of both sides of his mouth, trying to please everyone. Number four, I reveal what is the one character trait Luxon is missing, which Trump possesses. And number six, it will be this lack which will cost Luxon the 26 election. So watch. What is a Maori ward? Let's start with the basics. Just swap out the word ward for representative and you've got it. A Maori ward is a Maori person who represents Maori on a local council. They got there by asking Maoris and their council electorate to vote for them. That's how it works. These Maori representatives have equal voting rights with other councillors who were elected. Where did this start? Well, Helen Clark's Labour government introduced Maori wards into the Electoral Act in 2002. It was a new idea to try and get a greater representation of Maori on councils. That's what it was about. It must be noted that each council in New Zealand has electoral boundaries and electoral roles. There is a general role and a Maori role. Maori inside their council's electoral boundaries register on their council's Maori electoral roll, but only if they want to. Maori candidates put themselves up as a candidate, and Maoris on the council's Maori electoral roll vote for the Maori candidate they want. See how it works? It's pretty simple. The Maori seats in Parliament work the same way. Well, non-Maori are on the general roll, and they vote for the candidates who put themselves up for election. It was pretty straightforward. So when we talk about a Maori ward, we are really just talking about Maoris in an area voting for their Maori representative on the local council. In 2002, it was emphasised that Maori wards could only be established with community support. What does that mean? Well, no Maori ward was to be established by a council unless a majority of all electors, that's people on the Maori roll and the non-Maori roll, wanted a Maori ward. So how would they find this out? The answer, via referendum. What's interesting is that by 2020, only 3 out of 24 councils attempting to introduce Maori wards had been successful. That's 3 out of 24. This was a clear indication that New Zealanders did not want their communities to be divided by race. More importantly, they didn't want democracy being eroded by their council. As I said, they detested being lied to about what was so-called treaty obligations. Enter Nanaia Mahuta. All councils were told by central government, however, that before a referendum could take place, councils needed to gather a minimum of 5% of voters in the council area to say they wanted a referendum. In 2020, via Labour's Nanaia Mahuta, the law was changed. Councils were forced to have a Maori representative on councils, whether the people in the council area wanted them or not. That's how it was. The result? Most councils ended up with Maori representatives sitting around the council table with other elected representatives. People were furious. A lot of people were angry about this. Why? Well, they asked, why are Maoris getting special representation, special representatives? There are 160 cultures in New Zealand. Why are Maori being singled out to have a special representative on the council? If we're going to set up a special voting rights for cultural groups, why don't we have a representative of all the 159 cultures on council as well? There are nearly as many Asians in New Zealand now as there are Maori, so why not create an Asian ward? It was argued that if people wanted to have a voice on the council, all they needed to do was to put up some candidate on the general roll and let the people in the electorate decide if they liked the Maori candidate or not. It was just that simple. Another reason voters were furious, in Kaipara, for example, Maori ward councillor Paniora needed only 195 votes to be elected. See? And there's actually a clip from their website showing how many votes she actually got. There it is, 195. Mayor Jepson needed 3,689 to get across the line. And there's the same screenshot of the government record of the number of votes that he got, you see. So how is this fair? Two people sitting around the council table with equal voting rights, and one of them got there with 195 votes and the other 3,689. To voters looking on, it appeared that Panayura was gifted the seat at the table, whereas Jepson had to really work hard for it, you see. You know what the issue is? Maori privilege is infuriating voters. That's what it's about. They just don't like apartheid. They just don't like racism. They just don't like people getting privilege for no other reason than the colour of their skin. People hate this. People were furious. There was nothing stopping Maori from putting up, like I say, a candidate on the general roll. So what was the problem? Clark reasoned that Maori had never been successful competing on a level playing field like that, and they needed special help, so her government created an act in 2002. Another reason people were angry, there were lots of reasons. There was also no mandate for Maori wards in the treaty, like I've said, none whatsoever. Yet those pushing for Maori wards said there was a mandate. They said, oh, this is in the treaty. Well, you know what? That was just BS. Voters were also furious about being lied to. In April 2024, under pressure from Kiwi's local government minister Simeon Brown, confirmed the government would be reversing the change to local government law regarding Maori wards made by Nanaia Mahuta. So here comes Simeon Brown saying, no, we're going to reverse all this. He introduced the idea of referendums. Local government minister Simeon Brown made it clear that every council in the country would have to ask all the people in the council district whether they wanted Maori wards or not. They would do this through a referendum. A referendum, if you don't know what one is a general vote by the electorate on a single political question that has been referred to them for a direct decision. In other words, it's a council saying, I want to know what the people think. That's what a referendum is about. Not only this, but every Maori ward established over the past 50 years would require a referendum for it to continue. Well, so what has happened since Simeon Brown's announcement? Maori have found a way around this law change, exploiting a loophole in collusion with National Party MPs. This is where it gets really dirty. How so? Well, settlements between Maori and the government are going on all the time outside the public eye. Watch this.
Maori Crown Relations Minister, how do you see the current state of Maori Crown relationships?
Some things are going well, some things we need to work on a little bit more.
What are the things we need to work on? Do you
Well,
think,
I can't really comment on the litigation, but it's well known, Waka2 and other matters. But the Māori Crown Relations portfolio is also responsible for implementing the settlement obligations that are outstanding, and there are over 10,000 of those outstanding.
Whoa, did you hear that? There's 10,000 settlement claims in the pipeline for Maori. Well, this is hard to believe, but it's actually there, and who knew about that? And what are all those claims, and what's going on in the dark back room of Parliament? So, bypassing the need, one of those settlements is with a tribe in the Wanganui area. It's just one of 10,000 we found out about. What about the other 9,999? Oh my goodness. We are not told, but just join the dots. It's easy to work out what's happening here. There's backroom deals being done with Maori behind the scenes in Parliament, you see. And you know, have you noticed that the Maori protests have gone down? Why is that? Well, you work it all out. As part of the Wanganui settlement, they have included a clause which will give the council no option but to have Maori representatives on council, and a whole lot more, like giving away land and power, whether the general population want it or not. See? This means they have found a way to bypass the need for a referendum. It's pretty dirty business. These three people inside government have masterminded this, allowing this to happen. Who are those people? Luxon, Goldsmith and Potaka. And there they are, the gruesome threesome. Well, I believe it's really duplicitous what's going on here. This is a standard behaviour now for the National Party. What do I mean? Well, on the one hand, they pass a bill in 2024 making it compulsory for councils to hold a referendum on Maori wards. Why did they do this? They wanted to look like they were in favour of democracy and democratic process, and by doing so hoped to win the votes of democracy-loving Kiwis. See, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's all about votes. But on the other hand, they have done a backroom deal with Wanganui Maori in a so-called settlement arrangement. Can you believe this? It's duplicitous behaviour, and ultimately Luxon is the driver. What about Potaka, the Maori activist? Well, Potaka did a master's degree. Guess what his thesis was about? How to give Maori more power on council. See how this works? I have put his thesis on the description of this video. I've also done a series of videos called Potaka the Activist, and I've put a link to those videos in the description of this video as well. He is the most dangerous guy in Parliament alongside Luxon. So watch this. This is how slippery Potaka is.
If you don't mind, I kind of want to raise this, because I'm really keen to see what you think. Because it has been said, and your Prime Minister has said, that Māori ceded sovereignty. When did Māori do that?
Well, first of all, I just want to address the first thing. We came in on the basis of election promises around getting the economy back on track, restoring law and order, and delivering public services better. There are a number of coalition agreements that were reached as well on a number of things, but certainly, in my view, it's absolutely fundamental for us to get the economy sorted, law and order back on track, health, education, housing. There are a range of other matters which you've raised, which I think we've reached a lot of coalition agreements around, and our coalition is progressing some of those things.
Yeah,
so
I get that. But to be fair, this is an issue that has been talked about a lot. It is still being talked about. The Prime Minister has said that Māori ceded sovereignty. I'm just trying to talk to you.
Yes.
When did Māori cede sovereignty?
I think what my recollection of the Prime Minister saying over the last few weeks is that the Crown is sovereign.
Well, actually, that was a big lie, because he would know full well that Luxon said inside Parliament that Maori ceded sovereignty. It was a big moment of the year 2024. So Potaka's doing his best to fudge it and pretend he doesn't know, but he does know. So there you go.
Therefore, Māori ceded sovereignty.
There's been a cession of sovereignty. That's what the Prime Minister has said.
Yeah. When did Māori cede?
And I support the Prime Minister.
Okay, you tell me when Māori ceded sovereignty.
Well, what I'm going to say is this: is that it's a debate and a discussion in a quarter that's been going on for several decades. Right here and now.
Just asking.
Yeah, I know you're just asking me, but right here and now, I'm not engaging in the debate apart from to support the Prime Minister that the Crown is sovereign. What I'm engaging on are the needs.
This is the problem. You've got a leader of a coalition government partner in the ACT Party with the Treaty Principles Bill who talks about things like setting the record straight. And I'm just trying to get you to set the record straight with us, because you believe Māori ceded sovereignty.
I support the view of the Prime Minister, which is the Crown is sovereign. But what I also support, and you know this by just looking around this room, Mātangi Rea, is that there is an absolute protection and support for tino rangatiratanga, which preserved well before the treaty was signed and well before the whakaputanga was signed. And that notion of tino rangatiratanga will be upheld.
I'm just asking a simple question. When did Māori cede sovereignty? And how did they do it?
Well, there's been a number of different views on that.
You just tell me.
There are a number of different views.
There are Māori who want to know from you when and how Māori ceded sovereignty.
Yes, and there's a number of different views on that, and I'm not going to entertain that in a very tight discussion.
What your view? I'm just asking your view.
But I've said to others who have asked me that question, I've said, what kind of discussion do you want to have? Do you want to have a discussion?
The discussion is asking you a question of when and how.
But do you want to have a discussion about radical, absolute, titular de jure, de facto sovereignty? What are you actually talking about? Because
I just asked you.
There's a number of discussions caught up in that. What I'm really focused on are the needs of Māori. One of which is to have better housing. That's why I've gone all out making sure that a whole range of people, including hundreds of Māori kids, are brought out of emergency housing. That's the here and now that I have to deal with. Now, the discussions about sovereignty are very important discussions. Yeah. They're absolutely critical discussions. But my responsibility in this coalition government is to undertake and deliver on the Māori development, housing and other responsibilities that I have.
Now, yes. And they're going, here he goes again. Yes. This is what they're saying.
Yes.
You're not answering the question.
Well, there are
pretty simple. And I know you're saying you don't want to entertain it.
No.
But the simple thing is, you believe it. You agree with it. As Māori, as someone who is in this government, you are representing Māori in this government.
Yes.
I'm just asking the question, when and how.
Well, that's not a short conversation. That's quite an extended conversation. I don't think
standing right there. Right?
Yes,
right there.
yes.
Te tiriti
Yes.
o Waitangi.
Yep.
Right? Article 1 says kawanatanga. Right? Was that the cession of sovereignty in your
Ko te tuatahi
Yeah,
says kawanatanga.
Yeah.
Article
Was-
1 says something else,
Yeah,
as
no,
you
that's
know.
true.
And we are dealing with a bilingual, bicultural kawanata tapu.
Yeah, and I'm talking about te tiriti, he tika tauko. The
Yeah,
tuatanga
yeah.
o te kawanatanga. Was that the cession of sovereignty? Because that is definitely not te tuarua.
No. It's a very long conversation
It
about
actually-
something
it
that,
actually is,
that,
with
about
respect-
something that we
with
cannot
respect, it
answer
actually
words
isn't that long
comprehensively.
Okay, so was it in te tuatai? Was that where sovereignty was seated?
Sovereignty, as a word, is not in Te Tuatahi,
No.
but it is in Article 1.
No, but in te tuatai it says te kawanatanga. So
That's
your
what,
view-
that's what it says.
Yeah,
It's
was that the cession of
kawanatanga.
sovereignty?
Well, that's a long conversation we can't have. What I'm really focused on, though, are the needs of Māori communities.
Why won't Potaka say when and how Maori ceded sovereignty? Well, the answer is Luxon has drilled him not to. This guy has been drilled by Luxon. Why? Well, he's trying to keep Maori on side. The only reason Luxon spilled the beans on sovereignty was because he was pushed and pressured for an answer in the debating chamber. He tried to avoid answering the question put to him, did Maori cede sovereignty? It was as simple as that, by fudging it. He kept saying the Crown is sovereign, which was not answering the question put to him. When he finally got it out that Maori ceded sovereignty, he stammered and stuttered. This is Luxon inside the debating chamber. Now, I'm going to show you some footage of this actually happening. Watch how Luxon tries to avoid answering the question, and eventually he gets it out. You know, and Potaka actually was lying about this because he said, all Luxon said was the Crown is sovereign. But really, Luxon didn't say that. Luxon actually said Maori ceded sovereignty. Watch this. He'd finally been flushed out with his lack of transparency with the New Zealand public. This is Luxon. So watch this carefully.
Does he stand by his statement, quote, part of the history of modern New Zealand has been our struggle to understand the intentions and expectations of those who sign the treaty. That work is still happening and will keep going, end quote. And if so, can he set out his understanding of Te Tiriti o Waitangi by telling the House whether he believes that Māori ceded sovereignty?
In answer to the first part of the question, yes.
Does the Prime Minister believe that Māori ceded sovereignty?
Our position is that the Crown is sovereign. Well, as I said, our position is that the Crown is sovereign, and also importantly, the Treaty of Waitangi has protections there for both Crown and Māori interests.
Are we to take from that answer that the Prime Minister believes that Māori ceded sovereignty?
I don't know how I can be clearer in answer to the first question.
When did Māori cede sovereignty?
I just say to the member, we have a Treaty of Waitangi as the founding document of New Zealand. In there is protection for both Crown and Māori interests. As I said to you, the position is very clear. The Crown, Maori ceded sovereignty of the Crown.
So there you go. So Luxon actually comes out and says Maori ceded sovereignty. You know, he is stammering and stuttering, and obviously he felt very, very uncomfortable with that because he got flushed out. What about Goldsmith? He is the Treaty Settlement Minister, so he will be in on the deal with Wanganui Maori. There is absolutely no doubt about that. Luxon and Potaka couldn't do Wanganui deal without Goldsmith playing along. As I have said all along, Luxon is ultimately responsible. Why? Well, MPs have to toe the party line. If they don't do what Luxon says and thinks, they risk losing their cabinet posts. Therefore, none would risk cross-graining Luxon. He is the puppet master in that government. So what's the conclusion here? Well, what this tells us that National can't be trusted. It's talking out of both sides of its mouth, and behind these dodgy backroom deals is Luxon, Potaka and Goldsmith. On the one hand, they want to look like they are supporting and defending democracy, but on the other, they are undermining democracy by doing backroom deals with Maori. So the conclusion is Luxon needs to learn from Trump. Whatever you think of Trump, one of his greatest strengths, in my view, is that he is transparent. What you see is what you get. Not so with Luxon. Exit 2026. Luxon is very, very slippery. He is running the country by trying to please everyone. He is anything but transparent. In fact, he's deceitful. His downfall will be his lack of transparency with respect to the strong desire to further Maorification and co-governance, which he did not campaign on. He didn't let the electorate know about this before he came to power, yeah? So really, he's tricked the electorate. Since being in office, he's tried to hide this, which you've just seen that in the debating chamber in Potaka with his interview, and so is Potaka. But the truth is, they just can't hide the fact any longer. So what is the result of Luxon trying to please everyone? Well, the answer is, he'll please no one. He'll wreck the country, and he'll be out of Parliament in 2026. Nothing is more sure. So here's a warning from Don Brash about Wanganui. Dodgy prime ministers eventually get found out. They are then punished at the ballot box. Look at what happened to Ardern. As Don Brash said, quote, "This backroom deal between the government and Maori in Wanganui is a matter of utmost importance to the people of Wanganui, but it is also a glaring red flag and warning siren for the rest of the country. If Wanganui iwi succeed in gaining this power, other iwi groups will attempt to obtain their co-governance powers in similar ways. Councils, co-governance coming to a town near you." So he's sounding a warning. Good on you, Don. What's just as alarming is that the chairman of the Maori group who are negotiating the deal with the government is a man by the name of Ken Mair. That's the Wanganui chairman of the Maori group in Wanganui. He is a hardened Maori activist. Here he is here. His name is Ken Mair. I have written about Mair in my book, The Psychology of Takeover, 19 Strategies Maori Activists Are Using to Take Over the Country. On page 45, I quote Mair. He says this: "In a short space of time, that is after the treaty was signed, the British came in and thieved and stole our lands, and they continue to perpetuate their privilege through the theft of our lands and their rhetoric within our lands." Unquote. Oh my goodness, that is such a big lie. In another interview, Mair said, "We will take back our country by any means." And there's the reference. This tells me what is deep in the heart of Ken Mair as he plots the deal with the Wanganui Council. This is a serious thing. I'm talking about here something called the camel in the tent. That's a pretty straight up thing for Ken to say, isn't it? Maori want to own, therefore control New Zealand. Well, what are we to make of this? The Wanganui deal is a trap. You get that? How so? In my book, I also talk about a strategy that Maori activists have used since 1975 to try and take over the country. What's that? It's called the camel in the tent. Now, I'm going to explain this because it's extremely important that Kiwis understand how this works. This strategy is best explained by a parable which originates in the Middle East, and here it is. According to this classic tale, one cold night, a camel asks his master if he can put his head into the tent for warmth. "By all means, and welcome," said the man, and the camel stretches his head into the tent. Soon after, the camel inquires if he may also bring his neck and front legs inside. Again, the master agrees. Finally, the camel asks, "May I not stand wholly within?" With pity, the master beckons him into the warm tent. Well, but when the camel comes forward, it becomes clear that the tent is too small for both of them. "I think," the camel said, "that there is not room for both of us here. It would be best for you to stand outside, as you are the smaller. There will then be room enough for me." And with that, the man is forced outside of his tent. The fable is a warning that small, seemingly harmless acts can often lead over time to huge negative repercussions. That is what the camel in the tent fable is all about. So, how does this fable or this parable relate to Maori activists? To gain control of some piece of land, some situation or sea or lake or mountain or river or some asset, some person, some entity, some committee, some council, some project, they start small. For example, when the Treaty of Waitangi Act was enacted in 1975, the Waitangi Tribunal was mandated to investigate breaches of the treaty forward from 1975. Only 9 claims were registered, see? However, activists infiltrated the tribunal. They didn't see that in 1975 coming. Then in 1984, the Act was amended to investigate claims back to 1840. See, in 1975, they never saw this amendment coming. The number of claims rocketed up to 2,034 by 2009. The camel was in the tent. and the rest is history. And there's the reference where I get those numbers from. So, like sheep to the slaughter. So how does the camel in the tent parable or fable relate to what's happening in Wanganui? You can guarantee that in 20 years' time, all the seats around the council table in Wanganui will be occupied by Maori, and all the land will be under Maori control. The camel will have moved into the tent. Today's council in Wanganui, led by Mayor Tripe, are being led like sheep to the slaughter. They are green, they are naive, and they are woke. In 2050, the non-Maori population in Wanganui, if there will be any left, will look at photos of the 2025 councillors and curse them for being so unwise and so gullible. And there's the mayor there, Wanganui Mayor Tripe. That's the man. Is this just scaremongering? No. Anyone with a smidgen of observation skills will not fail to notice what has happened in the past 50 years in New Zealand. Maori activists have created a monster with 100 heads and 1,000 tentacles. Not one area of society has not felt the probe of a tentacle sometime over those 50 years. As a result, New Zealand is now marinating in Maorification and co-governance arrangements, all the latter dishonouring the treaty and unfaithful to the true intent and meaning of the same, and none of them democratic. That's all the co-governance arrangements going on in the background and existing right now. None of them are honouring the treaty. They're unfaithful to the true intent and meaning of the treaty, and none of them are democratic. All that's happening is that apartheid and racism is just spreading like wildfire. That's what's going on. Yet Mayor Tripe and his councillors, aided and abetted by Luxon, POTAKA and Goldsmith, are trashing democracy in the back room. See how this works? There's such a double standard going on here. Shame. Really, Mayor Tripe is a disgrace. So woke, so naive, so gullible, putting his virtue signalling feelings over his duty to protect democracy. Shame too on Luxon, POTAKA and Goldsmith for setting him up, just using Tripe for their own political ends. Really, it's a sad, sad day for Wanganui and its people, and for New Zealand. So what's the lesson? Be very careful who you vote for. That's the lesson. Okay guys, that's enough for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Now we need your help with something. This is important. We have produced some great flyers and brochures which we want to get into the hands of all New Zealanders. So we need to go around the mainstream media. They're not going to help. In fact, they're making things a lot worse. So we have to go around them. And we need your help to make this happen. We can't do this without you. So what are we talking about? First, there is our business cards. They're only 3 cents each plus courier to get them to you. Then there is our latest booklet called The Psychology of Takeover, 19 strategies Maori activists are using to take over the country. It's 80 pages and packs a huge punch. So they're cheap, they're $3, and they're absolutely fantastic if you want to get a handle on what's actually happening in New Zealand. Then we have a few thousand of our original Stop Co-Governance booklets left over from my tour in 2023. Remember these? You'll remember we printed 550,000 of these. Well, these are now free because we realized that only about a third of New Zealand houses got this booklet last when I did my tour, and so we want to get to the other 2/3. So if you do a few streets around where you live, that would be absolutely phenomenal, and they are free now. Then we have our MACA, that's Marine and Coastal Act brochure 2, which alert people to the loss of our beaches. You know, we're in danger of losing all the beaches around New Zealand. The text is written by Graham Adams, who's a great author. These are now free. And then we have our beautiful bumper sticker, which we've just made. And why are we doing this? Well, New Zealand's identity is under threat. We know that. First activists have and are still trying to change the name of New Zealand to Aotearoa. We don't want that. We must oppose this. This is rubbish. Where's the referendum saying that we want to change the name of the country? There was none. It was just forced on us. Second, Maori sovereignty flags are appearing more and more all over the place, and they're just treason. So we've got to get these bumper stickers out. So we've printed some awesome bumper stickers. They're $3 each, and they measure 21.5 by 6.5, so you can see how big that would be on your car. To get any of these free products, all you need to do is pay for the courier to get them to you. For the products that cost something, like the bumper stickers or the little psychology booklet, it's the cost plus the courier to get them to you. So to order any of these products, just use this email address, cards@stopcogovernance.kiwi, and we'd love to hear from you. Finally, if you want to access all the videos we've ever made, including all our most viewed and most popular videos, and have them all in one place, which is what people are asking for, then just type in this address into your browser. There it is there, https www.youtube.com/@StopCoGovernance, and you'll find it goes straight to our channel. Then what you do is save this address to your computer as a favorite. Job done. Well done. Then you've got them all in one place forever. And all the new ones that are coming in get placed into that address, so you won't miss anything. Okay, last thing, please, oh please, don't forget to subscribe. When you subscribe, you'll get the latest videos straight into your inbox. You'll never miss a video, which is great. You'll link up with like-minded people all over New Zealand, and that's very, very stimulating to have meet up with all these people who think like you. You'll be telling YouTube, I like these videos, and they will respond by advertising our videos to more Kiwis for free. It's incredible what they do, but it just relies on you replying to comments and making comments and liking things and sharing things and activity. That's what it is. It's just activity on our channel. And turning New Zealand around is simply a matter of reaching more Kiwis with the truth. So just click on the subscribe button on the bottom right hand side of your screen. There, the little yellow arrow is showing you where it is, and you'll be subscribed. Okay, see you next time. You guys are awesome.